Hi, this is Greg. Welcome to the channel. On this channel, we talk about markets, business, and investment. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about a very, very interesting stock. And the question will be, should we buy this stock now? And that company is none other than Moderna. Now, before we get into it, I'd appreciate it if you get value out of this video. Like it, smash that like button, subscribe, and also I'm very interested in your comments, so please leave your comments below. Okay, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of Moderna. They came out with one of the first vaccines for the 𝐭. We won't say the word because you're not supposed to say the word on YouTube, apparently. But basically, they came out with one of the vaccines, one of the 3 vaccines that are used in the United States, and the vaccine has been very successful. Now, their vaccine and the technology behind the vaccine is very unique in the sense that it's the only one on the market presently that uses a messenger RNA technology. Okay, now without getting too technical here, I just wanted to give you a brief introduction into what this is before we talk about the stock and the company as an investment opportunity. Messenger RNA, for those of you who don't have a scientific background, which is probably most of you, is part of the genetic material that is really, for lack of a better word, the software of the body and the cells. It carries the information that basically synthesizes proteins, which are the basic building blocks of all of life. The process of protein synthesis is very complicated, and we won't go into it here, but I do direct you to Moderna's website, and I'll put a link below for that. And there's a couple fascinating videos on the website, which I'll put down in the description, which you can look at, which basically tells you, gives you a basic background on what messenger RNA is, how their proprietary technology works, and more specifically, how it can be used for medical and medicinal purposes to cure disease. So check that out in the description below. So just to summarize very, very basically, what this technology does is it uses specifically encoded messenger RNA that results from very specific gene mapping to cause the cells, once this messenger RNA is incorporated into the cell, to synthesize specific proteins which are specifically intended to be visible to the body's immunological system so that the body can attack the virus, or in the case of cancer, a cancer cell. The body's natural immunological system can attack the invading cells and kill them. It's just an absolutely amazing technology, and it's the result of many, many years of research, and I find it fascinating. So as a way to start the analysis here, what I want to do is I want to go through and show you some of the various drugs and types of products in the way of drugs and therapeutic methods that Moderna is working on. And I think the best way to do that is for me to share my screen with you, and let's take a look at their pipeline right now. Okay, so here we are on Moderna's website, and I just wanted to refer again to 2 of these videos that I want to put in the description below to remind you of them. This is the first one here is messenger RNA's role in protein synthesis. For those of you who are interested, this will show you specifically how this concept and this proprietary technology that they have works. And then down here, you'll see a further description of the features of RNA and how they're used throughout the cell and the body, and potential applications for using messenger RNA to develop medicines. Both of these videos are just incredibly fascinating, and I'd recommend that you check them out on the website. And I'll put the link in the description below. Okay, so let's go over and check out something which I find really interesting. This is Moderna's current pipeline. Okay, so let's just take a brief look at this. You can see, of course, here's the vaccine that they're currently using for the pandemic. It's currently commercialized, which you can see up here. Each one of these arrows shows what phase they're in. And I think an important thing for you to notice here is that Moderna is what I would call a development stage company, in the sense that it's only been public for, a little about 2 years, approximately. It came public the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. So it's only been public for 2 years. And if you notice throughout here, there's only one product that is currently in commercialization. So all of these products, although they're amazing and incredible, they're still in phase 1 and phase 2 trials. So there is the risk that they will not get approved by the FDA, making an investment in this stock speculative. Okay? So you have to be a believer in the story. It's a story stock, biotech stock. You have to be a believer in the story. It's certainly not a sure thing. It's not like Exxon where you have enormous cash flow. It is a development stage company, so I just wanted to point that out. But if you look here, you can see they have vaccines in development, phase 1 and phase 2 trials for all kinds of things. The 𝐦𝐨𝐫𝐞 virus. And I won't go through each one of these here. Flu vaccine, right? That's not unique, but the methodology of how they achieve the vaccine is unique. But the thing that I find so incredibly interesting, and I think is a large part of the reason why I'm excited about this company, is they have produced a personalized cancer vaccine. Now, what this thing does, I'm not a scientist, but I'll just explain it the way I understand it. What this does is it takes an individual person's genetic material, and everybody's different, and also as a result, it turns out everybody's cancer cells are unique and different and unique to themselves, to each separate person. That's why it's difficult or impossible to develop a cancer vaccine that, cures all cancer, for example. So what they do is they take the mapping of a person's genetic material, their DNA. Then they look at the individual cancer cell from the person's tumor. They map that out and they identify the various mutations within that genetic material that cause the cancer the cell to mutate into a cancer cell. And then they map this out on messenger RNA. That messenger RNA is then injected in the form of a vaccine, which then goes into the cells and produces proteins, right? Synthesizes proteins that identify the outside of the cancer cell to the body's immunological system and identifies it as a foreign body, and the body's natural immunological system attacks the cancer cells. I mean, and each one of these vaccines is customized to each individual patient. I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. If anybody has heard of any other technology, even remotely like this from another company, please comment below, because maybe I'm just out of the loop, but I've never heard of anything like this. I was watching this video that's on the website, and I was completely blown away. So I guess the takeaway here is they have many vaccines and protocols in trial here. There's a tremendous, if a third of them, if 25% of these reach commercialization, the company will make a ton of money. And this particular vaccine the personalized cancer vaccine is being developed jointly with Merck, I noticed, which is interesting. It's a 50-50 joint venture with Merck. So anyway, what I'd like to do now is let me play for you the video which describes this personalized cancer vaccine, because it blew me away, and I think it's going to blow you away too. So let's go to that video right now, and then I'll be back with some more comments. And then what we're going to do near the end is we're going to look at the stock specifically and talk about where to go in on this stock if it's something of interest for you. Okay? So let's go to the video. Here it is.
Every patient's cancer is unique. This is one of the reasons why the same medicine given to patients with the same type of cancer, such as melanoma or lung cancer, may work for some patients, but not for all. At Moderna, we are pioneering a new frontier in the fight against cancer, making one medicine for one patient. Each patient's investigational medicine, called a personalized cancer vaccine, is based on the uniqueness of that patient's cancer and is given only to that patient. By developing and providing each patient with a custom-made investigational medicine, we believe we can help many more patients respond to treatment.
Cancer cells have mutations in their DNA that make them look different from a patient's normal cells. Each patient's cancer has a different set of mutations. Think of it like a fingerprint or a facial recognition scan. The first step in making a personalized cancer vaccine is to identify these patient-specific mutations. To do this, we simultaneously sequence DNA from the patient's blood, which is normal and not mutated, and DNA from the patient's tumor. Using powerful cloud-based computing, we compare the two to identify the patient's unique set of mutations. We then use special software programs we've developed at Moderna to predict up to 34 mutations that we believe will help the patient's immune system launch the strongest attack.
Next, we create instructions that encode for each of these mutations. We load all of these instructions onto a single molecule of messenger RNA, or mRNA, and this is what makes up the patient's personalized cancer vaccine. Currently, each personalized cancer vaccine includes instructions for up to 34 mutations. We may add even more instructions in the future. Once the vaccine is injected into the patient, the instructions carried on the mRNA tell the cells in the body to express portions of the proteins on their surface that look like the mutations. These protein fragments should train the patient's immune system to better recognize the mutations on the cancer cells as foreign invaders, and then attack and destroy those cells.
We have designed and built custom automation and robotics, and now manufacture each individual vaccine for patients in our studies at our personalized vaccine unit, which is part of our Norwood, Massachusetts clinical development manufacturing site. We took some of the processes we developed to manufacture big batches of the same mRNA medicine and shrunk them to create a process to make one investigational medicine for one patient. Once the vaccine is made, we ship it to a clinical trial site where a healthcare professional administers it to the patient. Our goal is to make each personalized cancer vaccine and deliver it in just a few weeks.
We expect our personalized cancer vaccines will be most effective when given in combination with other cancer medicines that also work with the immune system, such as checkpoint inhibitors. With our strategic collaborator Merck, a leader in immuno-oncology, we have teamed up to evaluate this combination in ongoing clinical trials. At Moderna, we believe that developing and providing patients with mRNA-based personalized cancer vaccines will bring us much closer to the goal of helping cure more patients of their cancer.
Okay, so is that amazing or what? I mean, I was a pre-med major in college, and I took a lot of genetics courses. I took everything that you would take for pre-med. And so I probably understand it a little bit more than the average person, but I can tell you I am completely blown away by this whole concept of using messenger RNA to affect these clinical miracles, for lack of a better word. And needless to say, if they succeed at nothing else except this personalized vaccine for cancer, this company is going to make an insane amount of money. And I mentioned in a previous video, which I'll put in the description, which was centered on ways to make money with the tech wreck, because Moderna has been hit tremendously, which we'll talk about in a minute. I expressed then that I think that with their proprietary technology and with their intellectual property that they have with this technology, I think they're ripe for an acquisition. And seeing that they're working closely with Merck, I think is interesting, because Merck would be a prime candidate to purchase this company at some point in time in the future. So with that said, let's go to my trading account and let's check out the financial aspects of this company and also some of the technical aspects of what the stock has done, and we'll decide, and I'll make some recommendations on where to go in on this stock, which incidentally I have already purchased. I bought a small position a while back at about $132 a share. It sold off a little bit recently, but let's take a look at where we would go in on this stock, and let's go to my trading account right now. Okay, so here we are on my trading account, and we have Moderna teed up here. It had a rough day today. It was down 7.4%. The making of this video is March 29th, 2021, so it had a rough day today. Traded down, and actually, if we look at the historical quote, we can see that recently, it's had a rough going. It traded as high as 178, and now it's down to around 123. That's from here to here. That's like a 30% drop, right? So let's take a look at the 6 month just to give a little bit more flavor here. Yeah, it right down. So even from this peak, it went from 157 down to 123. So it is sold off. Okay, and this is what attracted me to it. I bought it like right around here, around the time when I did the video on how to get rich in the tech crash, or the tech wreck, so to speak. But that being as it may, I think it's getting to the point where it is again an attractive. It could be an attractive purchase. So let's go back to the snapshot. And here you can see the 1 month. It's been pretty ugly, right? But let's take a look at my technical indicators, and let's also look, before we do that, let me look at that. Okay. The market cap is $49 billion. All right. And shares outstanding 400 million shares. It's losing money, right? Development stage company. We don't expect it to be making money. Let's take a look at the fundamentals before we go to the technicals. Okay, let's just take a look here at some of the things I look at for these development stage companies. Institutional ownership, 52%. That's better than seeing a lot of retail investors owning it. Not much of a short interest. Here, it's selling for 66 times sales. Okay, which, by any measure is high. Price to book 20. Not bad. Again, for a development stage company, not crazy. Okay? We've seen other companies on this channel trading for 178 times sales. Okay? What company was that? That was Snowflake, 178 times sales. And I recommended to not buy it as a result because I thought it was ridiculously overpriced. Not in the fundamentals, not a lot to see, okay? But let's go back to the snapshot and take a look at the technicals. Now, I say this on just about all the videos, but if you have not seen my video where I go into detail, it's called Trade Stocks Like I Do, where I go into some of these technical measures that I use and that many of the pros use. I'll put that in the description, and I would recommend checking that out just in case you're a little bit fuzzy on what we're doing here. But this top chart is the Bollinger Bands. This is the 50-day moving average. You can see it's approaching 120, which would be the bottom indicator of the Bollinger Band, which is basically one standard deviation below the 50-day moving average, and this is one standard deviation above. It's getting into oversold position both with the Bollinger Bands and down here the slow stochastics. It's getting into oversold position, as you can see. So you're never going to guess the absolute bottom, so don't even try. But this shows me that this stock is currently in a relatively attractive position to consider aggressive accumulation if this is the type of risk profile I feel comfortable with. And on that issue, I would not bet the farm on this one stock. I would put money into this stock cautiously, and I would do it with risk capital, in other words, capital that you could afford to lose. Whereas some of the other stocks we've talked about, like Chevron and Exxon and Intel, companies that have enormous cash flow, enormous value creation, those are more core holdings, okay? These other measurements down here, the relative strength index is not quite in an oversold position. Momentum is negative, which means it's oversold. And the money flow index is not yet showing oversold. But as I've said in previous videos, these three measures are confirmatory, and I primarily focus on these two. So the net result of this is that the stock is in a position where if you're interested in the story, if you think it's a good story, which I do, now would be a very good time to accumulate it. And just to mention, what I did was I purchased a small amount at 132, feeling like it was going to go lower, and in fact it has gone lower. So now what I will do is I will add to the position and get up to, gradually. I'll average down, average up, depending on the movement of the stock, and I'll eventually get to the position where I feel comfortable with, which is the position that I want to hold for the long term. You could trade this stock, but my recommendation would be this is something that you're going to hold for several years until their business plan gets proved out, and unless they get into a position where they're really screwing up right and left and nothing's going right, I would hold this for the long term. Okay, let's go back to the main screen, and I'll give some additional comments on this. All right, well, this stock and this company first came on my radar screen when I was preparing to do the video on how to get rich from the tech wreck. And while it's not directly a mega cap tech stock or a tech stock, it is a biotech stock. So as you can see from the recent action of the stock, it's still selling off with all the tech stocks, and tracking that NASDAQ right down and selling off quite a bit, which is why I find it interesting. But for me, the thing that is most amazing about this company is their messenger RNA technology, their strategy. The intellectual property coming out of this company is just absolutely amazing, and I think it's extremely valuable. If they are able to get this personalized cancer vaccine out of phase 2 trials and get it into FDA approval and can commercialize it, I believe they're going to make an insane amount of money. And as I said, I really believe that they will be a prime acquisition candidate for one of these larger companies like Merck or Pfizer or any of the others. Okay, so that's what I have to say about this company. And again, I appreciate you being here with me. Thank you so much for joining. Please smash that like button, destroy the like button. Please subscribe. And please, I'm interested in your comments. If there's anything I missed or some other information that you might have, I have very, very smart subscribers. They constantly tell me things that I didn't know, and it's a great back and forth learning experience, which is one of the reasons why I love having a channel. And please stay tuned and subscribe to the channel so you can be on board for future presentations, which will be coming your way very soon.